Good evening, groovy citizens, and happy winning Wednesday. So listen, I hope you all have had a wonderful day. My day has been wonderful. Okay, yeah, I gave you all the neck action because my day has been wonderful. I told you I wake up every single day and I say, Lord, today is well, I start off by saying, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And then I follow that with, today is going to be a great day no matter what. And I really mean that. No matter what happens. It doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter what anybody does. It doesn't matter what they don't do and they should be doing. Doesn't matter. It's going to be a great day. Why, you ask? Because I have claimed it. And so it will be. Period. End of sentence. Now let's jump into today's video. And today's topic is why people resist change. Let me say that one more time. Why people resist change. And I'm going to share 5 reasons, and there probably are more. So just understand that I'm not trying to give you the whole full list, but these are 5 reasons that I think people resist change. Because let's face it, change is hard. You all know for yourselves, we change presidents every 4 years, unless they're elected for a second term. We change jobs for more money, or maybe you just cannot stand the people you work with. We change relationships when they don't work out. We change vehicles when that vehicle breaks down and you have to get a new one. So change can be hard. It's exciting, and yet it can be hard at the same time. So it's been said that change is the only constant. Typically, people resist change when you make them change and they aren't ready, nor did they agree to the change. So have you ever noticed that if you force somebody's hand to change, they will generally push back, and I mean push back hard, because their mind is saying, you know what, I didn't ask for this change. You didn't ask me how I felt about changing, and now you want me to accept this change, but I didn't ask for it, nor did I agree to it. And so that's just very real. So what I would suggest is that if you're going to make changes, talk to that person or to those people and let them know, hey, we're going to be making some changes, and actually get their buy-in. Even if you can't use everything that they're suggesting, get their buy-in and implement a couple of the things that they do suggest to you. That way they don't fear it and they don't give pushback on it because you've included them in the change. Okay, so here are 5 reasons why people resist change and what you can do about it. Number 1, people have a fear of being different. So we are creatures of habit, and mostly we prefer things that are routine. We have a mindset that if it hasn't been done before and we can't see the outcome, we don't want any parts of it. This is why it's important to focus on the good things that are going to come about because of the change. And that is so true. Again, we have a tendency to find it hard to embrace things that we've never experienced before. It's just like, I've never lived any place other than Maryland, here in the DMV area. Specifically, I've never lived any place other than, well, yeah, Maryland. I've never lived in DC. I've never lived in Virginia. I've never lived in any other states. So if somebody said to me, Michelle, I need you to move to the West Coast, then I'm going to have a fear of that. Why? Because I don't know anybody there. And I'm moving someplace that I've never lived before. So I have to get used to a whole new city, a whole new way of life, and that can be very scary. So just keep that in mind as you're talking about change. Number 2, change causes people to feel overwhelmed and or stressed. So it's easy to become stressed about how to make the change happen, what all needs to be done, who's going to do what, the time frames, and what if something gets left out. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's just like going on vacation. I don't know about you all, but I know for me, I love going on vacation. However, I tend to get a little stressed sometimes when I have to pack. Why? Because I'm worried about, did I remember everything? Am I forgetting something? You know, the list just can go on. And so that's why I'm saying that people truly do have a fear, and they get overwhelmed because of change. And I know you said, but Michelle, that's vacation. Yeah, but that's still change. I'm changing where I live to go vacation someplace else. And so just the packing like I said, the time frame. I need to have all my stuff packed by this date. You know, I need to make sure nothing gets left out. Definitely have to make sure I have my enough medicine for the time that I'm going to be gone. What needs to be done, who's going to do what, you know, who's going to print off the plane tickets, who's going to get the rental car. So many things need to be done. So just keep that in mind as well. Number 3, people fear the status quo. So we tend to want to say, but that's the way it's always been done. When all you know is what was, then you probably, when all you know is what was, then you probably fight that change. Some people will feel betrayed by the individual or individuals that are making the changes, and others will hate what is to come. So essentially what I'm saying is, people, as long as they're doing stuff that they've always done, they're fine with that. And here's the caveat though. A lot of times they don't like what's always been done, but because they know what to expect, who's going to do what, and what's going to happen, they don't mind that. They would prefer that over you making changes. And then they have to go, okay, wait a minute. So you want me to go from getting up in the morning and being at this place at this time to now getting up later and going someplace else at another time. Well, I know what to expect when I show up here at 8 o'clock. So now you want me to show up there at 10 o'clock. Well, I don't know what's gonna happen at 10 o'clock over there because I'm used to getting up early. You get where I'm going with that? We love the status quo. And some people, like I said, they don't like it. Then some of them probably even, dare I say it, hate it. But because it's what they know, they would rather stick with that than to go with something else that could be so much better for them. Number 4, people don't trust the people or the person who is making the change. So when people truly like and respect the one that's making the change, everything is fine. However, if they don't like or trust the changer, then they will question their real motives. This is why there has to be trust between both sides, and there must always be honesty about the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. Okay? So again, if I don't know you and you come in and you say, okay, case in point. My church, Metropolitan Baptist Church here in Largo, Maryland, shameless plug, we have a new pastor. Our pastor-elect, because his installation is not until, I believe it's October, but he's a new pastor. And we have, well, let me just say this. I've been a member of Metropolitan for 35 years, okay? And for the last 7 years, we've had Dr. Watson there. And he came, and he's always preached revivals. And so you felt like you kind of knew him. But turns out he was much different than Dr. Hicks. Dr. Hicks he will forever be, he's my pastor emeritus now. He is still a member of the church. But he was and always will be my pastor. And under his leadership, you knew how things were going to go. Well, when Dr. Watson came, things changed just a little bit, not much, just a little bit. But there were some differences, of course, between the pastors. Dr. Hicks, he was very outgoing. And he is very outgoing. He loved to greet the people. He loved to know his members. And I would be willing to say he knew a lot of his members by name. He knew who you were related to and all that good stuff. You know why? Because he made it his business to do that. Well, when Dr. Watson came, he just was not, he was an introvert. And so he just was not that pastor. So we embraced that change, though, because we knew Dr. Watson, we liked and or loved for some and respected him. However, when he came, there was some differences. So he's been gone now for a year, and we just got our new pastor, Dr. Parks. Again, like I said, he's our pastor-elect. And the thing is embracing change yet again. Because we don't know Dr. Parks. I don't think any of us has ever heard of him, to be quite honest with you. And he seems like a very open person. He's definitely he's not an introvert, he's an extrovert. I can see that. He wants to get to know the members. He wants positive changes for the church. And so far the ideas that he shared with us have been great ideas. However, there can be some apprehension there because, again, you don't know this man. And so some people could resent any changes that he tries to make in the church just because you don't know him yet. However, I think for me, I'm pretty much okay with it because, like I said, he's a breath of fresh air. Let me say that. And just having him there is I think it's going to do a lot of good for the church in terms of growing the church the way it used to be. Because when I first started becoming a member Metropolitan, we were like 10,000 members strong. Now, dare I say it, we're probably down to around maybe 3,000 members, which is still a nice sized church, but things happen. So I shared all of that to say that when people don't trust the person that's making changes, that can make things very difficult. So like I said, we have not built up that trust yet for Dr. Parks because we don't really know him. He's been on board now for a month, and from what we see, I think he's going to be a great addition to our church. And so the changes that he wants to make are very subtle changes, but still, I think people are pretty much on board with it because, like I said, he just seems like a very wholesome, well-rounded extrovert that really wants to get to know his members. And so for that's a good thing. But if we did not trust him, then we could, as a church, push back and resist changes that are going to be made within the church. So, number 5, people associate change with a whole new set of problems and issues. I wrote down who. That's what happens when you write fast. But people associate change with a whole new set of problems and issues. So whenever there is change, there will be a new set of rules, issues, problems, and concerns. Most people would rather not deal with these things, but keeping things as they don't want to deal with those things, so they want to keep things as they are. However, remember, Bishop T.D. Jakes always says, new levels bring new devils. So keep that in mind. Now, I'm not saying because you have a new pastor or a new supervisor that they are the devil. I'm not saying that at all. However, that is something that people think about. New levels, when you make changes, it's taking you hopefully to a whole new level. And so new levels bring about new devils. But then there's another saying that says, better the devil you know than the devil that you don't know, which is why a lot of times people do push back when it comes to change. Because again, when you have that that devil that you work for, you know that person, you know their likes, their dislikes, you know their personality, you know when they're pissed off, you know when they're not, and the list can go on and on. Well, when you get a new supervisor, you don't know anything about that person. And so you don't know what to expect or how they're going to deal with things. That's why that saying says, the devil that you know is sometimes better than the one that you don't know. So keep that in mind. Here's your takeaway. No matter what you do, there are always going to be people that won't embrace change. No matter how much you try to convince them that it's for their good. So I just said that to bring it all home for you, to say that there are going to be times when people want to make change. And it could be in your household, it could be on your job, at your church, in your community. Doesn't matter where it is. And there are some people that are just not going to embrace change. I used to be that person where I didn't embrace change very well. But I became that person that said, you know what? Let's give it a try. Let's give it a try, because either it's going to work or it's not going to work. And guess what? If it doesn't work, then you go back to the drawing board to say, hey, you know what? We tried this. That didn't work. So we need to figure out how to tweak that or come up with something else. If you're a part of a group and that change doesn't work out well, you go back to the person that's making the changes and you say, hey, look, we've tried ABCXYZ. It's not working. So we need to come up with something else. Again, you tweak what has been changed, or you come up with a whole new game plan. I do want to leave you with this though. Change is inevitable. Change is going to happen whether you want it or not, whether I want it or not. Change is always going to happen. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to keep an open mind about change. Now, if you see that train wreck coming from a mile away, you might want to get off the track and go on someplace else. And that's a whole nother video in and of itself. But for the most part, I want you to keep an open mind about change, because again, change is either going to be for your good or it's not. But until you make the change, you're not going to know. Again, if you live in one neighborhood and you move across town, that change could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, because that neighborhood could be worse than what you came from. But you're not going to know that until you go there. And I'll say this too. Many times we miss out on our blessings, right? Because we fear change. And what I don't want to happen is for you to miss out on your blessings, because I certainly don't want to miss out on mine. And I can honestly say that I've missed out on some blessings in life because I was afraid of change. And so I decided a few years ago, I said, Lord, I'm going to stop missing out on opportunities because I'm afraid of change. I'm just going to change. And again, either it works or it doesn't work. But going back to when I talked about how we have to embrace change, change is going to happen whether you want to or not. Change happens with the seasons. You have summer, winter, spring, and fall. That's a change in seasons. We are born, and at some point in time in life, God is going to call us home. That's a change. You start a job, and if you are lucky to do so, or you choose to do so, you're going to stay at that job, and then one day you're going to look up and guess what? You're going to be retiring. That's change. That car that you love so much right now is going to get to a point where you can't fix it anymore, and you're going to have to get a new one. That's change. When you have that funky, stuck-up attitude that's not getting you anywhere, yet you want to keep having it, you are going to have to change, because if you don't, you are going to stay in that same sinkhole, that same bottomless pit that you are in right now. You are going to forever stay there because you won't change. I don't know about you all, but I don't want to get stuck anywhere. Let me say this, and I'm going to leave you. Sometimes God can't bless us because we won't change. And the sad reality is that God wants to bless us. He said, hey, I've got this blessing for these people, but they refuse to change, so I can't give them the blessing. And so God is just sitting there like this, just waiting on you. He's like, I'm gonna watch him. He's like, I got plenty of time. I'm just waiting on you. And this is how he's sitting there waiting on us to open up our minds and realize, you know what? It's time to embrace change. Alita Adams sings one of my favorite songs, and her song simply says, everything must change. Nothing stays the same. The young become the old, and mysteries do unfold. That's the way of time. No one and nothing stays the same. Then she goes on to say, winter turns to spring, and something else after that. But you get where I'm going with it. Everything must change. And so if you are afraid of change, and you think, well, if I move from here to here, I'm going to be missing out on something. Imagine if you don't move from here to here. So let me say that again. You think if you move from A to B, you're going to be missing out on what's going on in A. But the reality is that you could be missing that blessing in B because you refuse to leave A and go to B. So think of it like that. So listen, you guys, that's it. That's my time. Hopefully something I said resonates with you, and it will encourage you to want to change. I'm telling you, change like I said, it can be either good or it can be bad. But also it's how you perceive that change. Are you open-minded? See, if you're going into that change with a closed mind, with a nasty, funky attitude, then chances are things are probably not going to work out anyway. However, if you embrace the change, Look at how many doors God can open for you when you embrace change. Look at the blessings and the mercies that God can sprinkle down on you when you embrace change. So, having said that, thank you all for giving me just a little bit of your time. If you're new to watching my videos, I want to say welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. If this is not your first rodeo, I want to say welcome back. Y'all know I miss you when I don't get a chance to see you. Go out there, enjoy the rest of this Winning Wednesday, and win in everything that you do. Everything that you do, everything that you touch, I want you to win at it. But guess what? It's going to require you to change sometimes too. But having said that, you know the drill, you know the spiel. I love you all to the moon and back, and there's nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing that you can do to change that. Now, we just talked about change, right? But you can't change that, because I'm going to love you no matter what. Go out there, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening. Whatever you do, please do so responsibly and be safe, okay? I love you all to the moon and back, and we'll talk again on Friday.